The sight of a massive U.S. Navy deployment near Iran, surrounding waters, has once again pushed the Middle East into the global spotlight. Warships operating in the Persian Gulf, the Gulf of Oman, and nearby strategic sea lanes are not just routine movements, they are powerful signals. For Washington, naval power has always been a language of deterrence, reassurance, and dominance. For Tehran, such deployments are often interpreted as pressure tactics or even indirect threats. As tensions fluctuate across the region, every destroyer, carrier group, or patrol aircraft carries political meaning far beyond its military function. The waters near Iran are among the most sensitive maritime zones in the world. The Strait of Hormuz alone handles a significant portion of global oil shipments, making it a vital artery for the international economy. When the U.S. Navy increases its presence in this area, markets react, allies pay attention, and rivals reassess their strategies. The deployment is not only about Iran itself, but also about safeguarding trade routes, protecting partner nations, and maintaining freedom of navigation. In this sense, the Navy's presence acts as a stabilizing force for some and a provocative reminder of American power for others. Historically, U.S.-Iran relations have been defined by cycles of confrontation and cautious restraint. Naval encounters have played a major role in shaping this dynamic. From close intercepts between patrol boats to drone incidents and seizures of commercial vessels, the sea has often been the first arena where tensions surface. A larger U.S. naval footprint raises the stakes, reducing room for miscalculation while simultaneously increasing the risk of accidental escalation. One wrong move, misread signal, or technical malfunction could rapidly transform a show of force into a regional crisis. From the U.S. perspective, the deployment serves multiple strategic goals. It reassures Gulf allies who rely heavily on American security guarantees, especially at times when regional instability appears to be rising. It also sends a message that Washington retains the ability to project power quickly, even while balancing commitments in other parts of the world. The U.S. Navy's advanced capabilities, including missile defense systems, surveillance assets, and rapid response forces, are designed to deter hostile actions before they occur rather than respond after damage is done. For Iran, however, such naval movements are rarely seen as neutral. Iranian leadership often frames U.S. deployments as attempts to encircle the country and undermine its sovereignty. This perception fuels domestic narratives of resistance and self-reliance. Iran has invested heavily in asymmetric naval capabilities, including fast attack craft, coastal missile systems, naval mines, and drones. These tools are specifically designed to counter larger, technologically superior navies in confined waters. As a result, the region becomes a complex chessboard where size and strength compete with speed, familiarity, and unconventional tactics. The role of regional actors cannot be ignored in this equation. Gulf states, many of which host U.S. military facilities, view American naval power as a shield against potential threats. At the same time, they must manage their own diplomatic relationships with Iran, often walking a careful line between security dependence and regional dialogue. Any increase in U.S. military presence forces these countries to reassess their positions, balancing national interests with the risk of becoming entangled in a larger confrontation. Internationally, the deployment sends signals far beyond the Middle East. Global powers closely watch how the United States manages its naval posture near Iran, seeing it as a test of credibility and resolve. Allies want reassurance that U.S. commitments remain firm, while rivals analyze every move for signs of weakness or overextension. In a world where military resources are stretched across multiple regions, the ability to sustain a strong naval presence near Iran reflects broader strategic priorities and long-term planning. Media coverage often amplifies the drama surrounding such deployments, using phrases like "at Iran's doorstep" to capture attention. While this language reflects proximity, it can sometimes oversimplify the situation. Naval deployments are rarely about immediate conflict. They are about influence, signaling, and preparedness. However, perception matters as much as reality. When populations, politicians, and markets believe a confrontation is possible, pressure builds on all sides, narrowing diplomatic space and increasing the likelihood of hardened positions. The strategic calculations behind the U.S. Navy's presence near Iran go far beyond immediate tactical concerns. Each movement, deployment schedule, and positioning of assets reflects a deliberate balancing act between deterrence, reassurance, and geopolitical signaling. U.S. military planners carefully weigh the need to show strength without provoking unnecessary escalation. The region's volatile dynamics mean that even routine patrols can take on heightened significance, as every action is closely monitored by Iranian intelligence, regional allies, and global powers. The deployment of additional destroyers, carrier strike groups, and support vessels is thus not merely a demonstration of force. It is an intricate communication tool, conveying U.S. resolve and capability in a region where misinterpretation can have profound consequences. Iran's response to these deployments has been methodical, relying on a combination of military readiness and strategic signaling. The Iranian Navy and its affiliated Revolutionary Guard Corps maintain robust surveillance and quick reaction forces capable of monitoring U.S. movements in real time. Additionally, Iran has invested in advanced coastal defense systems and missile platforms, which allow it to challenge larger naval forces in confined waterways. These capabilities are specifically tailored for asymmetric warfare, giving Iran a strategic edge despite its relatively smaller fleet. The interplay between U.S. technological superiority and Iranian asymmetric tactics has created a tense but calculated standoff, where neither side seeks direct confrontation, yet both remain prepared for escalation if misjudgments occur. The geographic context of this deployment adds another layer of complexity. The Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, and the Gulf of Oman form one of the most strategically sensitive maritime corridors in the world. Over 1/5 of global oil passes through these waters, meaning that any disruption could have immediate international economic repercussions. U.S. naval presence ensures not only the protection of these shipping lanes, but also a measure of stability for allies dependent on uninterrupted energy exports. This maritime security dimension underscores the fact that the deployment is as much about economic interests and global trade stability as it is about direct military confrontation. It serves as a reminder that the sea is not just a theater of conflict, but also a conduit for global interdependence. Diplomacy and signaling are tightly interwoven with the military dimension of the deployment. The U.S. regularly communicates with regional partners to coordinate maritime patrols, joint exercises, and intelligence sharing. These interactions provide reassurance to Gulf states, while simultaneously creating a broader coalition of vigilance that discourages unilateral aggressive actions. However, diplomatic signaling extends beyond formal communication. Even the very visibility of naval assets functions as a diplomatic message. Aircraft carrier groups, destroyers, and surveillance ships positioned within radar and visual range of Iranian waters send a clear, unspoken statement. The U.S. is present, capable, and prepared to respond to threats to stability or allied interests. The psychological impact of the deployment should not be underestimated. The constant monitoring, alerts, and military exercises in proximity to Iranian coastal areas place continuous pressure on decision-makers in Tehran. This pressure has both domestic and international dimensions. Domestically, Iranian leadership must balance the need to project strength to its own population while avoiding provocative actions that could trigger a military confrontation. Internationally, Iran must consider the reactions of allies, competitors, and global powers. The U.S. deployment, therefore, operates within a multi-layered psychological theater, where perception, intention, and credibility are as critical as actual firepower. One notable aspect of the current deployment is the integration of multiple technological platforms and capabilities. Modern U.S. naval operations rely heavily on intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance systems, which provide continuous situational awareness. Drones, satellite feeds, electronic warfare systems, and advanced radar networks allow commanders to monitor movements across the Persian Gulf with precision. This capability not only enhances operational safety for U.S. forces, but also reinforces the deterrence effect, as potential adversaries know that their actions are likely being tracked and analyzed in real time. The deployment is thus not just about the number of ships, but also about the synergy between technology, human judgment, and strategic positioning. Media coverage has amplified the stakes of these movements, portraying the deployment as a potential precursor to confrontation. Headlines emphasizing proximity to Iran often stir public and political concern, influencing both domestic and international perceptions. While the risk of immediate conflict remains relatively contained, media narratives shape the broader understanding of the situation, influencing policy decisions and market reactions. This interplay between military action and media interpretation demonstrates that modern deployments operate in a hybrid environment, where psychological, informational, and physical dimensions intersect. The presence of U.S. forces is simultaneously a strategic maneuver, a signal, and a story being told to multiple audiences. The broader international context also informs use of strategy. And while the focus remains on Iran and the Gulf region, the deployment reflects global considerations. U.S. naval planners must account for simultaneous commitments elsewhere, including the Pacific, Europe, and Africa. Maintaining a credible and responsive presence in the Middle East requires careful allocation of resources, logistical support, and contingency planning. The complexity of sustaining such a posture underscores the global reach of U.S. power and the interconnected nature of modern military strategy. Each ship, aircraft, and unit in the deployment is part of a global puzzle, contributing to a layered approach that balances deterrence with strategic flexibility. Economic and energy security factors further elevate the importance of the deployment. The Persian Gulf remains critical not only for regional economies, but also for the global energy supply chain. Disruption of maritime traffic, even temporarily, can send shockwaves through international markets. By positioning naval assets to safeguard shipping lanes and ensure operational continuity, The U.S. reinforces both regional security and global economic stability. This dual role highlights a key principle of naval power. It functions not only as a military instrument, but also as an enabler of broader policy objectives, from trade security to diplomatic leverage. The deployment also illustrates the importance of adaptability in modern military strategy. The U.S. Navy must constantly adjust to shifting regional dynamics, intelligence updates, and operational contingencies. This includes modifying patrol routes, coordinating with regional partners, and preparing for potential escalation scenarios. Flexibility and responsiveness are essential to prevent missteps that could inadvertently trigger conflict. The emphasis on adaptability reflects lessons learned from past crises, where miscommunication, rapid escalation, or miscalculated responses led to unintended consequences. Today, the U.S. deployment is not a static show of force, but a dynamic, continuously evaluated operation designed to manage risk while maintaining strategic objectives. The U.S. Navy WS deployment near Iran represents not just a show of force, but also a profound test of modern maritime strategy in a complex geopolitical environment. Every decision, from the positioning of aircraft carriers to the timing of naval exercises, is carefully calibrated to achieve multiple objectives simultaneously. These objectives include deterrence, reassurance, surveillance, and maintaining the freedom of navigation in a region where strategic chokepoints like the Strait of Hormuz can significantly influence global energy flows. Such deployments underscore the enduring relevance of naval power as both a military tool and a diplomatic instrument, particularly in areas where political tensions and historical rivalries intersect with critical economic interests. One of the most significant aspects of this deployment is the demonstration of U.S. technological superiority and operational readiness. Modern naval vessels are equipped with a range of advanced systems, including integrated missile defense platforms, electronic warfare capabilities, and real-time intelligence gathering tools. These technologies enable U.S. forces to detect, track, and respond to potential threats with unprecedented speed and precision. In practical terms, this means that any aggressive maneuver by regional actors can be monitored and countered before it escalates into a larger conflict. The presence of such capabilities near Iran sends a clear message that any attempt to disrupt regional stability or challenge U.S. forces would be met with a highly coordinated and technologically sophisticated response. Iran's own military strategy has evolved in response to decades of naval encounters and regional tension. Recognizing that it cannot match the U.S. Navy in terms of raw firepower or technological sophistication, Iran has invested heavily in asymmetric tactics designed to exploit the constraints of the Persian Gulf and nearby waterways. Fast attack craft, coastal missile batteries, anti-ship mines, and unmanned aerial vehicles are all components of a strategy aimed at complicating the operational environment for larger navies. These assets allow Iran to project power in its immediate maritime vicinity, deter potential aggressors, and reinforce the narrative of national resilience. The interplay between U.S. naval strength and Iranian asymmetric capabilities creates a dynamic environment in which both sides must carefully calculate every action to avoid unintended escalation. Regional partners and allies play a critical role in shaping the context and impact of the deployment. Countries such as Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Bahrain host U.S. military bases or cooperate closely on security matters. For these nations, American naval presence provides reassurance against potential threats and contributes to broader regional stability. However, it also requires a delicate balancing act in diplomatic relations with Iran, which maintains its own sphere of influence across the Gulf. The deployment, therefore, is as much about alliance management and strategic reassurance as it is about deterrence. Each movement of U.S. naval forces has ripple effects across the region, influencing political calculations, security commitments, and the posture of neighboring states. The deployment also highlights the integration of military operations with intelligence and surveillance efforts. Continuous monitoring of Iranian naval movements, coastal defenses, and airspace activity allows U.S. commanders to anticipate potential risks and respond proactively. This intelligence-driven approach is critical for preventing incidents that could inadvertently escalate into conflict. By combining real-time data with strategic planning, the U.S. Navy maximizes its operational effectiveness while minimizing unnecessary risks. In a region where misunderstandings or miscalculations have historically led to tense confrontations, such vigilance is essential for maintaining stability. Beyond the immediate military context, the deployment has significant implications for global energy security. The Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz are vital conduits for the transportation of oil and gas, with disruptions potentially impacting markets worldwide. U.S. naval presence ensures that maritime traffic can continue uninterrupted, mitigating the risk of supply shocks that could have far-reaching economic consequences. In this way, naval power operates not only as a military deterrent, but also as a stabilizing force for international commerce. This dual function reinforces the broader strategic rationale for maintaining a robust presence in the region. Media coverage of the deployment often emphasizes the proximity of U.S. forces to Iran, framing the situation in dramatic terms. While such portrayals capture public attention, they can also oversimplify the complexities of naval strategy and regional dynamics. The deployment is not necessarily a prelude to conflict. It is a carefully measured effort to maintain influence, gather intelligence, and signal resolve. Nevertheless, the perception of heightened risk can influence policy debates, market behavior, and public opinion, demonstrating that modern military operations exist within a multidimensional environment where information, perception, and reality intersect. The psychological and symbolic dimensions of the deployment are equally important. The visibility of naval assets serves as a reminder of U.S. commitment to regional security and its ability to project power globally. For Iranian leadership, these deployments can create internal pressures to demonstrate resilience and readiness, influencing both military posture and domestic political narratives. The presence of U.S. forces, therefore, operates on multiple levels simultaneously. It reassures allies, signals capability to adversaries, and shapes the broader perception of American influence in the Middle East. Logistics and operational planning are also key components of the deployment. Sustaining a naval presence in a region as strategically significant and geographically challenging as the Persian Gulf requires meticulous coordination. Fuel supply, maintenance, personnel rotations, and communications infrastructure must all be managed effectively to ensure continuous readiness. These logistical considerations highlight the complexity of modern naval operations and underscore the commitment required to maintain a persistent presence in a high-stakes environment. The deployment is thus a testament not only to military capability, but also to the organizational and operational expertise required to executing sustained maritime operations. International observers closely monitor the deployment, interpreting every maneuver as a potential signal of U.S. intent. Allies assess the credibility of American commitments, while rivals scrutinize for signs of weakness or hesitation. This global attention amplifies the strategic significance of the naval presence, making it a central element of broader diplomatic and security calculations. The deployment, therefore, is not confined to the waters off Iran. It resonates in capitals across the world, influencing decision-making, alliances, and strategic planning on a global scale. Finally, the current deployment underscores the enduring importance of naval power in shaping international relations. Despite technological advancements in cyber warfare, long-range missiles, and space-based systems, the ability to project military strength through sea power remains critical. Control of strategic waterways, the capability to respond rapidly to crises, and the symbolic projection of power all reinforce the relevance of naval operations in modern geopolitics. The U.S. Navy's presence near Iran demonstrates that maritime power continues to be a versatile instrument of statecraft, capable of influencing events far beyond the immediate theater of operations. The massive U.S. Navy deployment near Iran, AS waters, is a reminder of the delicate balance that defines modern geopolitics in the Middle East. Beyond the movement of ships and aircraft, this deployment reflects decades of strategic planning, lessons learned from past confrontations, and the evolving nature of maritime power. Every destroyer, surveillance drone, and patrol aircraft in the region carries not just weapons and sensors, but also a message of deterrence and resolve. The U.S. aims to maintain stability in a region of immense strategic significance, while signaling its readiness to respond to threats to its allies, interests, and international trade routes. At the same time, Iran watches closely, projecting its own capabilities and readiness to defend its sovereignty and assert regional influence. The Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz, and the Gulf of Oman remain central to global energy security. A disruption in these waters would not only affect regional economies, but could also create ripple effects across the world, influencing energy prices and trade patterns. The U.S. naval presence helps mitigate such risks by ensuring that commercial vessels can transit safely and that international maritime law is respected. This aspect of the deployment highlights the dual role of naval power. It is not merely a military tool, but also a stabilizing force for global commerce, connecting regional security concerns with broader economic interests that impact billions of people worldwide. Iran's asymmetric military capabilities remain a key consideration in U.S. strategic planning. While it cannot match the U.S. Navy in terms of sheer firepower or technological sophistication, Iran has developed a range of tactics designed to challenge larger fleets. Fast attack craft, swarming boats, coastal missile batteries, and unmanned systems allow Iran to operate effectively in confined waters, creating risk for any naval force attempting to project dominance. This asymmetric approach complicates the operational environment and forces U.S. commanders to remain vigilant, adaptable, and constantly aware of the potential for escalation. In this sense, the deployment is as much about managing risk as it is about demonstrating strength. The psychological and diplomatic dimensions of the deployment are equally significant. For regional allies such as Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Qatar, the U.S. naval presence serves as a reassurance of American commitment to their security. At the same time, Iran interprets these movements through the lens of national sovereignty, often framing them as provocations or attempts to contain its regional influence. Diplomacy, intelligence sharing, and strategic signaling are therefore essential components of this deployment, helping to prevent miscalculations while maintaining open channels for dialogue. The interaction between military posturing and diplomatic engagement exemplifies the complexity of modern security management in high-stakes regions. Technological integration is another defining feature of the U.S. deployment. Modern naval operations are built around advanced sensors, electronic warfare systems, real-time intelligence, and long-range strike capabilities. These tools allow commanders to monitor threats, assess risks, and respond with precision. Beyond the technical aspects, technology serves as a force multiplier, enhancing both deterrence and operational efficiency. Every ship, drone, and radar array contributes to a layered defensive and offensive posture, ensuring that the U.S. can maintain control over its operational environment while minimizing unnecessary exposure to danger. The deployment also reflects the importance of logistical excellence. Sustaining a naval presence in a geographically and politically sensitive area requires careful planning for fuel, supplies, maintenance, and personnel rotations. The ability to keep ships at sea, operationally ready, and strategically positioned demonstrates not only military capability but also organizational competence. The logistical backbone of such operations is often overlooked, yet it is crucial for maintaining continuous readiness and avoiding vulnerabilities. Without meticulous planning, even a technologically superior fleet could face operational challenges that compromise its effectiveness and credibility. Global observers, from allies to rivals, closely monitor every aspect of the deployment. The positioning of aircraft carriers, the movement of destroyers, and the coordination of patrols are interpreted as signals of intent, capability, and resolve. Allies assess whether U.S. commitments are credible and sustainable, while rivals seek to identify weaknesses or opportunities for leverage. The deployment, therefore, extends far beyond the immediate waters off Iran. It resonates on a global scale, shaping perceptions and influencing strategic calculations across continents. In this sense, the U.S. Navy operates not only as a military force, but as a critical instrument of statecraft and international signaling. Media coverage and public perception also play important roles in shaping the impact of the deployment. Headlines highlighting proximity to Iran or potential conflict scenarios can amplify concern and influence political discourse. While media narratives may exaggerate risks or oversimplify complex strategies, they also reflect the broader awareness of the importance of this region in global geopolitics. Managing perception is therefore a complementary aspect of military deployment, ensuring that allies, adversaries, and international audiences understand the intent behind U.S. actions while minimizing the risk of unnecessary panic or misinterpretation. Looking ahead, the situation remains fluid. The U.S. Navy's deployment near Iran is not a static posture, but a dynamic operation, continuously adjusted based on intelligence, regional developments, and diplomatic considerations. This adaptability is critical for maintaining both deterrence and stability. While direct conflict is not inevitable, the presence of powerful naval forces in close proximity to Iran underscores the importance of careful management, communication, and strategic foresight. The ability to navigate this balance successfully will have significant implications for regional security, global trade, and U.S. influence in the Middle East. Ultimately, the deployment near Iran's waters illustrates the multifaceted nature of modern naval power. It is at once a demonstration of military strength, a tool of diplomacy, a safeguard for global commerce, and a psychological instrument. Every aspect of the operation, from the deployment of ships and aircraft to the integration of technology and logistics, reflects the complexity of contemporary strategic thinking. It is a reminder that naval power today is as much about intelligence, adaptability, and signaling as it is about firepower. The U.S. presence in these critical waters embodies the intersection of historical experience, geopolitical calculation, and the imperatives of global security in an increasingly interconnected world. As we conclude this analysis, it is clear that the massive U.S. Navy deployment at Iran's doorstep is more than a story of ships at sea. It is a narrative of strategy, diplomacy, technology, and the careful balance of risk and deterrence. Understanding the full picture requires looking beyond headlines and examining the layers of planning, signaling, and capability that define modern military operations. The presence of U.S. naval forces is a statement of intent, a reassurance to allies, and a reminder to adversaries that regional stability and freedom of navigation remain priorities. It is a living example of how naval power continues to shape international relations in critical areas of the world. If you found this breakdown insightful and want to stay updated with in-depth analyses of global military and geopolitical events, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Your support helps us bring more detailed, well-researched content straight to you. Stay informed, stay aware, and join us next time as we continue to explore the forces shaping our world today.